All right, it is 7 o'clock. It is time for Toolbox Tuesday, and welcome. This is where we put tools in your toolbox to help you pound out problems and sharpen your saw. To dive right in, our presenter today is Matthew Villela, and Matthew comes to us from Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada. Matthew is a professor for the Travel and Tourism program at Confederation College. He is the past Division A director. He's a past area director. He's currently the vice president of education for his home club, which is Nana Bijou. Matthew joined Toastmasters back in 2011, and he was trying to become more comfortable with public speaking. He says that Toastmasters has changed his life, and he has unlimited opportunities that he would not have had he not joined. Matt is the current president of Leadership Thunder Bay, and he's excited to complete his Masters of Education in the next 3 weeks. Matt is one of our valued members of our training team, and we're thrilled to have him on the team. You're in for a treat today. Let's hand it off to Matt Villela. Take it away, Matt.
Thanks, Dave. Hope everyone is having a wonderful Tuesday out there, and the weather is treating you okay. Today we are going to talk about being president and what that means for a club. So today I'm going to have a little conversation with you about being a president and what that means, and hopefully we can have a little bit of a discussion later. I'm looking forward to engaging in a conversation with everyone out there. So now, the president's role. I was president for a few years for a few of my clubs, and it was one of my favorite roles. And the reason why it was one of my favorite roles is because if you have a good team, it's a relatively easy role to take on. If your team is excellent and superb, you just kind of have to sit there and smile and everything else falls into place. So let's start. So the agenda, I'm going to ask you a few questions. What makes a good president? And then we're going to go into the president's role, president's responsibilities, some resources that are out there, and what if, we're going to do some scenario kind of questions, and then a quick wrap up. So question of the day, and what we're going to get you to do is in the Q&A section, which is on the top or on the bottom, depending on what Zoom you're using, I just want you to write the answer to these questions. So what are the qualities of a good club president? And we will address that at the end of this presentation, but I just want you to maybe add 1 or 2 points on what are qualities of a good club president. So think and add that to the question and answer, and I will read them out later. Second question of the day is, why is it important to have a strong club president? So once again, for either question, please fill in some question and answers, and we will address it at the end. And I saw one individual already added a question and answer, so thank you very much for participating. I appreciate that. So the president's role, it's broken down into 4 key areas. We have the club meeting, we have outside the club meeting, we have the executive committee, and we have general ambassador. And that's what we're going to discuss today. So hopefully everyone is aware of what the president's role is in a club meeting, and if not, maybe this might be a good refresher for you. So at a club meeting, the very first thing that you are to do is to greet everyone with a Toastmaster handshake. And those are nice firm handshakes with nice smiles, eye contact. And we, as a president, it's our role to make sure that everyone feels welcome in our room. And we want to make sure that people feel positive and they leave feeling that it was a wonderful experience. In most clubs, some clubs might be different, but it's general custom that the president calls the meeting to order. They are the first person that everyone sees every week, and that sets the tone for really good quality meetings. The president typically introduces guests to the club, so they find out ahead of time who the guests are, and they make a connection to that guest and address them in front of the group and announce that they are there and they are attending as a guest. Explain meeting events. If there's any meeting events that are happening throughout the meeting that are a little bit different, the president could explain it. The president also fills in when needed. So if someone perhaps gets sick, doesn't show up, the president steps in and takes on those roles. So the president is always ready and willing to step in where needed, when needed. And perhaps have a speech in your back pocket. So if you are president, maybe have one or two in your back pocket just in case someone doesn't show or someone is unable to do a speech, then you are good to go and able to present a speech. You conduct the business portion of the meeting. If there's any business that is required before you start the meeting, you can do it here. And you are an ambassador to the club. So you are participating, you are speaking in turn, you are being positive, you are providing positive evaluations. Whatever happens in the meeting, you are the one that it falls on, and you should be setting a positive role model and positive experience if you can. Club meeting at the end. At the end, some clubs do this as well, where the president will come up and will give the final remarks. So they'll provide information on the next meeting, whether the meeting time is the same place, the location. They are also adjourning the meeting. So you're the first person that everyone sees when you start a meeting, and you're the last person that everyone sees when you're adjourning the meeting. So it keeps that consistent. You help with cleanup. You don't just pack up and leave and let everyone else do it. You help your team. And of course, you're available. You socialize with guests, any other members. Do not rush to leave. Try to be there and be supportive and answer questions and just be present. And that's what makes a good president right there. All right, so that is the first component. Second component, outside the club meeting. And yes, if you are elected as president, you have roles outside of the club meeting. And that is to attend and vote at council meetings. So if there is a council meeting that requires your attendance, you should do everything in your power to try to make it and be a voice and give your vote. Attend the annual business meetings that we have. You do have a vote, and if you're not voting, make sure you proxy your vote. It's really important that as a president, we use that right to vote, and we encourage other members of other clubs to do that as well. Appoint and chair the audit committee. So in each club, depending on how big you are and depending on if you have finances, the president can appoint the chair of the audit committee, and they go through the books and make sure that everything is up to par. And if there's, I don't think there's any income tax that needs to be filed, but if you need to do that, you can do that there. And appoint the nominating committee. So we know that every year, the Toastmaster year runs from July 1st to June 30th. In around about April or May, we have to start looking at succession planning. And so it's the president's role to appoint a nominating committee and nominate people who might be good fits in roles moving forward. So that's your job as president as well. You receive and share official correspondence from World Headquarters. So most presidents in their emails will receive newsletters, info from World Headquarters. Hopefully you're not pressing delete and you are sharing this with your members of your club. It's really important that you do that. You are like the messenger. You're the conduit from World Headquarters to your club level. So you should be sharing that information if possible. Schedule and chair executive committee meetings. If you are not having executive committee meetings, I would recommend highly that you start. It's a good way to get your executive together to talk about good things in the club, things that need improvement, and it's a wonderful opportunity to give people experience on how to chair a meeting. So that is a really important role of the president to ensure that this is happening and that they are effective meetings. Develop and improve club leadership, whatever that is. So you can do educationals every couple of weeks if you wanted to. You can encourage other members to do educationals. You can sign in to a Toolbox Tuesday and gain some knowledge from the people here. Whatever it is, it's your role to try to find leadership opportunities and maybe encourage members to participate if they can. Oversee the club administration. So you oversee the club. You make sure that everything in the club is working at where you want to work. Dues are paid. Everyone's doing their roles. So that is your job. Encourage members, not only members of your executive committee, but members of your club. Encourage them, be supportive, maybe be a mentor. Step in when you see someone struggling and maybe have a conversation. Take them for coffee, whatever it is, whatever way you feel comfortable, but be there as an encouragement. You are the face of the club. You are the face that runs the place. So it's really important that you set a really good tone. If you set a good tone and you're positive and you're encouraging, that will rub off on other members, and it goes a long way. So I would really encourage, and I would really say that is the most important part, is you are the face and you are the figurehead, and you need to set the example. Participate in a trade show. If there's a trade show opportunity or there's an education fair and you are out there promoting Toastmasters, participate with your executive members and go out and shake hands and welcome people to Toastmasters. Encourage them to come as guests. Maybe participate in planning a speechcraft session and encouraging people to attend that. Any speaking opportunities I would encourage you to take and to spread your wings as president. There's no limit on what you can accomplish as president. And submit educational awards and payments if Vice President of Education is not available, or if they are doing an educational award, you can, as president, go in and submit that. You're also now base camp manager. So if you are a president, you have base camp manager accessibility as well. So if the Vice President of Education is not able to log in and do that, it's your job to help them with that and to submit educational goals as well. So it's really important with pathways and with our old educational system that we are on top of our educational goals and we are helping where we can. And payments. So if your treasurer is unable to take payments, misses a couple meetings, you can take payments and you can submit them on her behalf to Toastmasters International. So you can help your team if you need to. The executive committee. So it's your job to oversee the executive committee. You don't necessarily have to chair every executive committee meeting. You might want someone else to take that on. But it's your job to make sure that it's happening and to encourage members to attend those meetings because they are super important. You are also part of making sure that duties are completed at meetings. If someone misses a duty or someone is missing time, it's your responsibility as president to make sure that it's either completed or someone fills in to help with that. So you are the leader of the team. Everyone is working on the same page. Sometimes you have an executive that A, for some reason, aren't meshing. B, they were voluntold, so they weren't at a meeting and they were voluntold into a role and they're not necessarily the happiest about being in that role. So it's your job as president to make sure that everyone is happy, content, and everyone is getting what they're supposed to out of the role. Sometimes that doesn't happen, but an important part of being president is to make sure that everyone is getting a good experience. Because if they have a horrible experience as part of the executive and it leaves a bad taste in their mouth, they might not sign up to do anything ever again, or you might actually lose that person as a member. And so it's your job as president is to check in, make sure everyone is doing okay, and no one is getting overwhelmed on their duties. And this is one that comes up from time to time. It doesn't happen a lot, but deal with any difficulties and challenges within a club. So if there's a challenging member and you as a club need to address it, you might want to talk to that person. You might want to talk to the executive. And there is a protocol that you deal with through Toastmasters International if you ever have to remove a member, which is why we vote members in. So hopefully that doesn't ever happen as in your term as president, but it does happen time to time. In my first term as president, there was a disruptive member, and it was really bad because she was sending out emails to all members and trying to really get people against the executive, and we had to vote her out. And that was a horrible experience, but we all grew from it. So the team remained strong, and we are a stronger club because of that happened. So sometimes we have to deal with it. Hopefully you don't have to. If you are fortunate enough to actually have some extra funds in your account, whether you did a speechcraft course or your dues, you can create a club budget, and you can determine what goes where and what you need to buy for the club and what you're going to spend in a typical year. You help complete a club success plan. You shouldn't do it alone. It's not your responsibility to do a club success plan alone, but you encourage your executive members or members of your club to participate in a club success plan. It's part of your educational goals to complete one, and it helps a club become successful. Doing one and then every year adding to it, it goes a long way, and it makes your life easier when you're working on moments of truth, or when you have an area director that comes in and asks all these crazy questions that they have to fill out. You can just say, I'm going to send you my club success plan, and all their answers are answered in a club success plan. So I would encourage you to be part of that experience if you can. Strategize for success in the program. So we have the Distinguished Club program. It's your job as president is to make sure that the ship is going in the right direction, and that people are doing their educational goals, and that your club is successful if possible. So that's your job as well. Create and oversee any other club committees as necessary. So sometimes clubs will plan an event that happens. So there's a little committee that forms, and your job is to be part of that as well, to make sure that everything is going smoothly. And you need to know what's happening within your club and within your executive to be effective and to do your job well. So some responsibility and action plan. If you leave here today, if you get one thing out of this, maybe these are some questions that you might want to ask yourself. So you are president of your club, and how do you fulfill the responsibility to your club? And so I want you to think about that and maybe answer that on your own. Give yourself strict timelines. Don't just say, in the next year, this is what I want to do. In the next 2 months, this is what I want to accomplish. I want to call an executive committee meeting. I want to accomplish going out to one trade show. Give yourself strict timelines, and that will make you a more successful leader. Who is part of your team? Know your executive. Why are they there? Why did they sign up to be executive? What do they want to get out of that experience? Who is part of your team? Know their strengths, know their weaknesses, and that will make everything run smoothly. And what resources do you need? Is there anything that you're missing as club president? Is there a role that is not necessarily being filled correctly? Do you require help from the community? Do you require help from members who aren't a part of your executive? Those are things that you need to ask, and those are things that you need to write down and work towards. All right, so challenges and learning opportunities. I always think a challenge is a learning opportunity, and I would encourage you guys to think the same way. So some challenges that you might experience as president is the different personalities. Everyone comes with different things that are happening in their lives. People have work stress, people have relationship stress, and not everyone is on. So you have to deal with that. Some people have really strong personalities, outgoing. So other people are really introvert and really scared and really anxious to be there. So you have to juggle that. Not everyone has the same work ethic as you do, or quality of work as you do. And that's really important to remember. Yes, it's an organization that we do pay dues. Yes, it's an organization that we take an oath and we promise to bring guests in and work hard, but not everyone is going to work as hard as you or provide as quality as you. So you have to keep that in mind when you're working with different people. You're not going to please everyone. It's really hard to please everyone. If you have a really small group, it might be a little easier, but if you have a group that's over 25 people, it might be hard to please everyone. Every member that walks through that door, not everyone's going to have a good experience. And it's your job as president to do the best that you can to make sure that people do have the best experience, but not everyone is going to be a good fit for Toastmasters meeting. You can only be as strong as your team. If you are a president and you are doing everything for your club, it's going to be a tough challenge for you. You're going to burn yourself out, and I'm concerned about how strong your club will be. If everyone steps up and you have strong people who want to be there, who want to learn, and who want to challenge themselves, your task will be super easy. And you need to be on. If you're having a bad day, if you are dealing with some challenges in your life, you as a president need to be on, and you need to leave that out of the door. So just like Disney, magic line, when you walk through your center and you're smiling and you're on and you want to be there. And if you're having a really bad night, let your vice president of education do your duties and maybe take a night off. That's okay as well. Okay. So why did you take on the role as president? And hopefully some of you weren't voluntold into the position, and hopefully all of you wanted to actually take it and do it. But that's not always the case, and sometimes people are stuck with it, and hopefully you'll make the best out of it. So it's a really good opportunity to gain and enhance your skills. If you've been president before, I challenge you to do things differently. Don't do it like you did the first time. Do it differently, be uncomfortable, and take risks, take challenges, and learn. Help motivate you for your goals. So you might have some goals. No matter what reason you joined Toastmasters, you have certain goals. So being a president will help you speak more. It will help you know the roles of chairing a meeting, guiding people. So it looks really good on your resume, and it can help you with future employment. You can set a good example. As a president, you know that you have some good qualities and you want to show your club how to do it. So that might be a reason why you took the role. To help strengthen your club, hopefully you took the role as president to grow, but to also help your club grow and not be stagnant. Right? Fresh ideas are good, and that's why I love that in Toastmasters, every year you need to change the president out, which is really wonderful. Resume enhancement, this is a great tool. I mentioned that already, but you can have president of your club on your resume. And let me tell you, at interviews, people ask about that, and it raises some questions. So it's a good conversation starter. And it's a way to challenge yourself. It's a way to do something and to take a lead and be president and move on to something else, maybe in the community. I first was the president with Nana Bijou about 4 years ago. And after I did that role, I wanted to become president of Leadership Thunder Bay, which is an organization. I have 4 staff, I have 12 board members, and it's a volunteer role, but the skills that I learned from Toastmasters relate directly to that. So it was a wonderful opportunity. It changed my life. So some issues that might arise if you are president, and hopefully it doesn't, but it might. So a member is scheduled to fill in a meeting role, and it doesn't come to the meeting. That happens from time to time. Things happen. Hopefully they let you know, and they gave you enough notice. You fill in if necessary, or you find someone else that might help. So you encourage a new member maybe to take on the role, and you mentor them and you help them through it, or you take it on and you make sure that it gets filled. Scenario number 2, a club member is underperforming. They are absent on a regular basis and they are unable to fill their duties. As president, for me, what I would suggest is meet with them, see what's happening. Maybe there's a conflict with another person in the room. Maybe they took it on and they are really stressed and they're having anxiety and they don't want to let the club down, so they just don't come. So meet with them, have a discussion with them. I would prefer not to do it over email, and have a conversation with them. And if you need to replace them because they can't do it, B, they are unwilling to do it, replace them with someone that can, because it will hurt your club in the long run. Next scenario, a club member is belligerent, controlling, or a troublemaker. And from time to time, this happens. And if you've been around Toastmasters as long as I have, you've probably seen a couple occasions where this happens. So what you need to do is have a coffee with the person, have a beverage, explain what's happening. Maybe bring some executive members with you, 1 or 2, just so you're not alone and you have some backup if you need to. If the conversation doesn't go the way that you want, maybe perhaps you need to vote them out, and that is the worst and absolute last scenario that you need to do. And I'm not encouraging you to do that, but if you have to, it's built into the club constitution for a reason, and I would consult with your area directors or division directors before you do that. So hopefully that doesn't happen. You can also maybe encourage them to join another club, because maybe your club is just not a good fit for that individual. So those are some challenging things that you might arise. Hopefully I'm not scaring you, and hopefully you can take it as a challenge and learn from it. Next scenario, you become ill or incapacitated for a period of time. So a few years back, I tripped on a mat and I tore my Achilles tendon, and I was out of commission for 16 weeks, and I was vice president of education at that time. And the club stepped in and they all filled the duties as required, as needed. So if you are ill or you're feeling incapacitated and you can't do your role, it's okay to say, hey team, I need help and I need you to get me through this. And more likely than not, your team will get you through it, and they'll step in and they'll do a remarkable job. And then when you come back, they'll welcome you with open arms. Next scenario, you are approached by the public to come and speak at their event. They heard that you're a Toastmaster. They know that you have some skills, and you are asked to come. So as president, what I would do is take that opportunity to go and speak, but also include your team. Ask members of your team if anyone else would like to come and join you and participate. So that would be a really good opportunity to learn and grow. Speechcraft, if you're ever offered to do a speechcraft, or you're approached to do a speechcraft, take it on, form a team. You don't have to do the work yourself, and take that opportunity to speak to other people and spread the news and the word of Toastmasters, which is wonderful and great. So we're near the end, and I see that a bunch of questions and answers here. So this is excellent. So what are the qualities of a good club president? And let me see some of these here. So able to hold, supportive, able to hold the larger picture of the club to help folks work through their details. A good communicator, excellent. Great leadership and people skills. Too important to have a good president, because leadership sets a tone for the entire club. And job of a president is to make sure that the officers have what they need to do their job. Supportive, and did I miss anyone? Dave, you would like to answer the question live? Is that what's happening?
Nope.
Okay, because on my screen it says Dave Gibson would like to answer the question live, so I was confused. Sorry.
Sorry, I was just clicking it as you were going through.
Okay. So on my list that I have organized, effective communicator, a good role model, someone that speaks highly of Toastmasters. If you have a president who is all disgruntled about pathways, about Toastmasters, about everything in life, might not be a good person to have as the face. Diplomatic. It's really important as a president to be diplomatic. Don't take sides. Be neutral if you can, and hear what people have to say and try to be the mediator between everything. You need to work well with the team. If you are a person that does everything yourself and you don't care who's on your team and you don't care what they do, it might not be the best position for you. You need to be adaptable, because things happen, things change. And sometimes things happen at meetings where you're not expecting it, and you need to step in and maybe correct that. For example, if you're at a meeting and a guest speaks out, or a member speaks out and says something that is politically incorrect, you might want to step up after and maybe explain something or put it in a different light, right? So, and most important, not afraid to make a mistake. As a leader, it's really important that you are able to make mistakes, because mistakes you learn from. They're learning opportunities, and they make you a better person. So we're not perfect, and we shouldn't be perfect. So next question we had, why is it important to have a strong club president? And do we have any answers for this one?
Matt, if you look over on the answered section, Kelly had an answer. She had said it's important to have a good club president because leadership sets the tone for the entire club and its members at all levels.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Kelly, for your answer to that question. Oh, sorry. So yeah, it sets the tone for the club. I use exactly your words. It helps people grow and develop. If you are a supportive and positive role model, you will see people come along and kind of follow your lead. And it lays the groundwork for success in your club, and it lays groundwork for success in all aspects of life. So that's what I have there. Additional resources, you have your Club Leadership Handbook, which you should have received. And if you don't have one, maybe connect with Dave. Any additional resources are on the Toastmasters website. You can go and use these resources if you want. You can also reach out to people who have been president before and talk to them and engage with them. And any of the trio, they are really good at answering questions. Joanna is our lead trainer, and she would be happy to answer any questions as well. I, as well, would be more than happy to offer resources and chat with anyone. Even if I'm Thunder Bay, I can chat through Zoom, no problem. I'm open to that as well. So what I would like to do right now, if possible, is see if there's any questions out there in the world. If there's some questions, please raise your hand and Dave will unmute your mic and we can have a conversation. And if not, that's okay too.
Also, if you'd like to, you can type in the question using the Q&A box. So if you don't want to speak on the webinar, you can also type in a question.
Dave, do you have any questions?
Not so much a question. I do want to talk a little bit about, you had mentioned the Club Leadership Handbook. And
Yep.
If you don't have a Club Leadership Handbook, I'd recommend going on to toastmasters.org and downloading it. And actually, if you go on to Google and type in a search for Toastmasters Club Leadership Handbook, it'll be hit number 1. And it's a downloadable PDF. You can save it on your computer or on your phone or tablet. And it has a lot of really good information. And if you're an officer and you don't have it, I'd recommend getting your hands on it. The nice thing about the electronic one is you can search for things as well. So it lets you search for items really quick. Hey, we've got a question here, though. I've got Brian has asked, what tips would you recommend to a current club president to groom club members to run for club president?
Wow, that's a great question, Brian. For me, what I did was around January, February, I sat there and I observed people and I watched and I saw people who, you know, would take on roles, people who were good role models, people who were engaging, people doing speeches, that kind of thing. And I would ask, I would say, do you, what is your plan in regards to Toastmasters? And have you seen yourself being part of the executive? And perhaps maybe you should join a meeting with us and see what the executive is all about and just have that conversation. I find that once you have a conversation with someone, it takes away that mystery and people are like, you know what, that does sound really interesting. Or maybe putting it in their head in January, saying, hey, maybe you might be good for an executive role. Think about it. And then in February, did you have a chance to think about it? In April, okay, we're approaching elections. Where are you at in regards to what you think about for next year? Right? And really just have that conversation. It's all about relationship building. And that's what I think. But Dave, do you have any answer to that as well?
No, I think you covered it very well. It's about, you know, showing people what's in it for them and talking maybe about the growth that you experienced when you went through your club presidency. And I'd also recommend, if there's some things that you would change about how you did your year as being a club president, pass that on as well.
Yeah.
No need to reinvent the wheel. You can share your learned experiences and share some of the benefits of being a club president, and you can help foster that excitement about the role.
Good, excellent question. Thank you. Well, it was great to present to you. Hopefully you got something out of this presentation today. I encourage you to keep challenging yourself, do things differently, and don't be scared to take on a role, especially in Toastmasters, because it does give you skills for a lifetime. Oh, Nancy has a question here. What are some ways to get some money for a club with no dues? All right, so you are able to offer a Speechcraft program if you want to, and that's a whole other webinar. Then you can charge for your time, and that money goes to the club. In some clubs, they do 50-50 draws. So for example, my club, we have a 50-50 draw. So people put in $1, and usually the pot's at $7, $8 at the end of the meeting. And we have a draw at the end of the meeting, and half the money goes into our resources and half goes into their pocket. 9 times out of 10, people will donate all the money. Also in our club, we charge for ums and ahs. So we charge 5 cents per and ah, and that's a way that we kind of generate a little bit of income. And not a lot, but it goes a long way when you're doing photocopying and you're printing off name tags and all that stuff. So.
And I make a note of that, Matt, so that if I ever visit your club, I bring some Canadian nickels.
Yes. No, American nickels, because it goes farther. We have another question here. What are good ways to get new members to join a club? Well, to get people through your door, I would encourage open houses. Open houses are a great way to get people and attract people. I would encourage doing a Speechcraft program, and I'm a big fan of Speechcraft. We do Speechcraft twice a year in our club, and we get 2 or 3 new members a year from Speechcraft. I would encourage going to trade shows, career fairs, any opportunities that you can go and spread the word in Toastmasters. There's a lot of free things that you can do through social media, and encourage all your members to bring a guest. So those are some ways I would suggest. And once you have them, you make sure that it's a really good, positive experience for them, and you do your best to encourage them to come back or encourage them to attend another club if you in your area. Like in our area, we have 6 clubs, and so a club might not be a good fit for someone, but encourage them to go to another club. And just to be supportive, mentoring, whatever it is. Dave.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Matt. Word of mouth is probably the biggest draw for bringing people in off the street to a Toastmasters meeting. But once you get them there, make sure that what they're coming to see is worth seeing, and put on a quality meeting. Put your best foot forward, and that is really the biggest thing. And a lot of our club officer training that we're doing this year is focused on running quality meetings and how to make the most of the 60 minutes or the 90 minutes or the 120 minutes that you have inside of those meetings. So word of mouth will get them in, and then quality will bring them back.
Dave, I don't know if you do this, but in some clubs you can go on Vistaprint. Vistaprint's Canadian, but you can print off calling cards, and you could give them out to people that you meet and encourage them to come to a visit. And I tell people, just give me one visit. Give me one visit to show you what we do, and if you don't like it, you can leave. That's no problem, but just give me one. And so that's another point. Oh, we have another question. Excellent. Speechcraft, can you please describe, and how often should we have open houses? Okay, so there's 2 questions there. Speechcraft will be coming up in a couple of weeks on Toolbox Tuesdays, but Speechcraft generally is an opportunity that you provide, that you can provide some educationals while you're doing a Toastmasters meeting. So you run a Toastmasters meeting, you do some educationals, and it's a condensed 4, 6, 8 to 10 week course. There are manuals that you can work out of. People can do speeches, and they gain the skills of Toastmasters in a short period of time, which usually translates into them joining and becoming a Toastmaster. And then the second question, how often should we do open houses? For me personally, you should be doing it once in the winter term and once in the spring term, before membership dues are due. So I would do one in October and I would do one in February or March. And that would probably be sufficient and fine. If you put the energy into those two, it'll go a long way.
Yeah.
Also, if you wanted to have a conversation about Speechcraft, I would be more than happy to answer any emails. So I can type in my email, and if you want to get information about Speechcraft and the Speechcraft session, you can let me know. I've done over 15 Speechcraft sessions in my club, and I've done like 10 out in the community. So feel free to ask questions if you want. Wonderful group today, Dave. This is awesome.
Yeah, no kidding. This has been great. Matt, we are at time now. So Matt, I want to thank you for presenting today. This has been great. I want to thank all the officers, all of you who came out and sacrificed your time on this evening and came out to learn more about the role of club president. Next week, we will not be broadcasting live. We'll be out recording the Speechcraft session, and then we'll try and get that loaded up onto Toolbox Tuesday. I guess we'll see you in 2 weeks. This has been Toolbox Tuesday. Thanks for coming out.